Hello class, and welcome to the DENG 055 discussion of the outline assignment that I gave you today. It's October 29th, 2015. I just want to explain a few things for those of you that were unclear or those of you that missed class today so that you would know what to expect and how to handle it. So if you remember back, we had two discussion boards, and one of the discussion boards that you filled out was the one on picking your subjects. So you decided on two separate subjects that you would be comparing, contrasting, or both. And you also had a discussion board that was called brainstorming. So possible compare and contrast subjects was the name of the first discussion board, and compare, contrast, brainstorming. So if you look on the discussion board, all you have to do is click discussions, and you can actually see what you posted there if you've forgotten. You will want to have a look at those before you complete this assignment to make sure that you're using the subjects that you chose. If you have chosen different subjects, make sure that when you complete this outline that those are your final subjects that you plan on using. So let's go ahead and get with the discussion here. First of all, it's important that you have a look at chapter 13 of your book so that you'll kind of understand what compare and contrast is all about. I know that we've had several activities related to it, but chapter 13 does a really good job describing it and explaining the two outlines that are in this assignment. You'll use the outline that's in this assignment to organize the first draft of your compare and contrast essay. You'll neatly write your outline items below based on the subjects and brainstorming that you previously completed. And if you prefer to type it, that's fine. And if you write it, make sure it's very neat. This assignment is a little bit different. You're going to turn it in printed form. In other words, you won't upload it to Blackboard. So it says that this is due Tuesday, our next class in printed format at the beginning of class, and it's worth 25 points. So if you look, you're going to list your two subjects here, and I'm just going to go ahead and choose two. I'm going to put, let's see, that I want to work as a business manager. Sorry about that, manager. And the other one that I might want to do is maybe a museum manager. So maybe I've decided that I want to go into business or be a museum manager. And so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to decide whether I'm going to compare, I'm going to contrast, or I'm going to address both. So that would be telling about the similarities and the differences if I address both. And in this one, I'm going to contrast both. So I would just type contrast, and that's your number 2 on your assignment. Let's scroll down a little bit here. This part asks you to list 3 main points. And this is to actually help you develop your outline later. So I think my first point is probably going to be about pay. And here, writing your first main point, you will make in your essay using a full sentence. So if you look here, I've paused to write the sentence to save time on the video. There is a pay difference between being a business manager and being a museum manager. So as you can see, it's a fairly simple process to make your first point. So if you have a look at the second main point here, for the purpose of this outline, I've decided to talk about how business management offers more opportunities to make personal connections with others, and perhaps the business manager is in sales and gets to meet one-on-one with customers in this essay. So let's move on to the third main point for the purpose of this essay outline that I'm writing. The last one is, because of the nature of business management, it is a more fulfilling job. Now you see 3 statements here, but the thing about writing is that when you have the main points, you also have to offer some supporting examples, and that's what the excuse me, that's what the actual outline allows you to do. Okay, before we move on to the thesis, just have a look at number 4. That's just in case you're going to go, you're going to have more points than 3, and you would still list those in sentence format. And in your outline, you would add that point also, or those points to your outline. So let's move on down to the thesis statement. If you have a look, I gave you some rules to create a thesis statement, and I'm just going to go ahead and read those so that you can not just read them with me, but hopefully absorb those so that when you're creating your thesis statement, and keep in mind this is a working thesis, so it doesn't have to be really complicated. It can be very simple. So number 1 is the thesis statement should tell the readers exactly what to expect in your essay. You're giving them the information. You're giving them the broad overview of what you're about to tell them. So it should identify not only the subjects being compared or contrasted, but it should also list the points that you will make about them in the order that you will make them. So when you look back at the ones that I did at the beginning of the video, basically you're going to be talking about you'll be identifying the 2 subjects, which was business management and museum management, and then the points that I listed, of course they would be worded probably shorter than what they are up there, but you would include those as part of your thesis statement in the order that you're going to discuss them in your essay, and they'll actually be listed in your outline in that way too as we get on down further in this assignment. So also, listing your points in the order they are addressed in the essay is called forecasting. That's just for you to understand that you're actually forecasting what you're going to tell the reader. And that's a good thing. You want them to know some. You just don't want them to know all of it. So the thesis should also indicate whether you'll focus on the similarities, the differences, or balance between the 2. And in this case, I'm actually going to contrast, which means the differences, in case you don't remember that. Remember, comparison is similarities, and the balance between the 2 would be compare and contrasting. So if you have a look here, we're on the thesis statement. And this thesis statement meets the rules above. Business management and museum management are different in many ways, including pay scales, prestige, and fulfillment. If you notice, those are the exact 3 points that I made above. The points made are going to be plugged into one of the outlines, not both. So when you get to page 3 and 4, make sure that you're not trying to fill out both methods of outline. You'll only choose one that works best for you. If you look at number 5, it just says there are 2 organizational methods for comparison and contrast essays. Point-by-point method and one side-by-side, one side at a time method. So subject by subject. And you're going to see those in just a minute. So you list the organizational method that you will use in your essay. And that's going to be obvious anyway. For this one, I'm going to use one side at a time. So there you go. I've typed that in. So make sure if you type that in. But if you don't, I will certainly know by which outline that you have chosen to fill out. Now it says complete only one of the outlines listed below for your essay, depending on the organizational method that you decide to use. So you're going to apply points of comparison or contrast to both subjects. You'll keep in mind that the points you apply to both A and B subjects should be exactly the same. So if you decide to discuss both the similarities and differences, you'll need to add that section to the outline form. Now we're going to go on down to the actual outline and fill it out so that you understand what I'm talking about. So in this one, this is one side at a time. And I'm going to probably show you both of these so that you know how to use them. But this one would be, so your subject A is business management. And remember, the first thing that I talked about was pay. Now, for the supporting examples, you might say something to the effect of it's higher pay. So, and I'm pretty sure it probably is depending on the business that you're in. And you could even do better benefits. And if you wanted to add another one, you could actually do something like, let me spell that right for you. Something like they have tuition waivers so that you can go to school. So You get what I'm saying. You could go on with that with many different supporting examples. So if we go to the next point, which was the prestige, then you also want to talk about that. So maybe you get free perks, like, I don't know, let's say something like a car. So you get like a company car. I'm going to change this one. Maybe you are a business manager for a business that has you travel. And so you get a house to stay in. So let's just say that you get the company car and the house, which you deem to be prestigious. So point 3 was fulfillment. So on this one, whatever fulfillment means to you is probably what you're going to want to put here. So if you were doing business management, perhaps it's like meeting sales goals is fulfilling for you, or customer interaction. So whatever it is that you've decided to talk about is what would go here. So you see that what you're doing essentially is you are talking about subject A first, which was business management. When we go down here, you're going to do museum management. So point 1, same thing, pay. On this one, perhaps there is no tuition reimbursement. And you want to go to school, so that matters to you, and that's part of your pay. Or maybe they're lacking in medical insurance coverage. So those could be your 2 pay deficits that you are saying they're very different from the other. Now, if you want to take a wild guess at this one, number 2 would be prestige. So on number 2, you might have no perks on the job or lower pay, which up here, let's go ahead and add house. So they rent you a house when you travel, and put higher pay, can afford, luxury. And down here, lower pay, may have to work extra for luxury. So then point 3, of course, is fulfillment. So in fulfillment, perhaps the museum management, instead of meeting sales goals, that perhaps it's more difficult to reach goals, such as maybe collecting certain pieces of art because people don't want to sell, or things of that nature. Then the other prestige lower, the other fulfillment, if you look back up here, let's scroll back up here just a second, it says customer interaction. Maybe the museum manager is more isolated. So if you have a look at what we did, I think that you'll find it fairly easy. You'll have to see part 2 to see the point-by-point method, so that the video is short enough to upload onto YouTube for you to view. So if you click part 2 that's saved in your folder, you can see the next part of the video where we go through point-by-point method, which I believe to be a little bit easier for the shorter assignments. But you can judge for yourself and decide which one that you prefer.